Welcome to PI XChange. I'm Mark Michelson, Editor-in-Chief and Editorial Director of Printing Impressions. Today I'm honored to have Dave Johannes, who's Senior Vice President of Operations at IWCO Direct in Chanhassen, Minnesota. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks, Mark.
We're shooting this video, which will actually air next week, which will air shortly after you're actually hosting an open house tied in with Canon Solutions America. So it's really going to be fun to talk to you prior to this event, and then I'm actually going to be coming and seeing firsthand kind of what we're talking about. But IWCO Direct has the distinction of being the first U.S. installation of the Canon Océ VarioPrint i300 cut sheet device, as well as the Océ ImageStream 3500 continuous feed presses, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
So let's start out a little bit. What drove IWCO Direct to become the first installations of those two devices?
Well, as you know, Mark, we've had a long partnership with Canon, and a big part of that partnership has been built around, we've been kind of one of their leaders for installations of new technology. We were the first U.S. installation of the 7650 machines, the 8750 machines, the first inkjet, color inkjet that they put in the U.S., the ColorStream 3500, and kind of keeping that tradition, we have been in the color digital space now for the last 3.5 years, and with the growth, we've added 6 additional 3900s, and now with this new technology available and the ability to move away from treated sheets, inkjet treated papers, and to go to a higher print resolution and a broader color gamut, seemed like the right time. We've been able to leverage the investment we've made so far and drive a whole new market segment for ourselves, and this is just the next step in that evolution.
Right. Now they're both full color devices. How are they going to fit into your overall production workflow?
Well, the VarioPrint i300 is unique because all of our color sheet cut today is toner based. And this gives us the ability to put on an inkjet color sheet machine that will allow us to better match output from the continuous color boxes, which are all inkjet, on a sheet cut basis, particularly for things like spoilage recovery or for small test panels of larger programs where they want the color, the paper, and the consistency to all match better. It gives us a way to do that and not switch over to a toner-based sheet, which has a different look and feel to it, quite honestly. So it ties a missing segment of our print arsenal up by providing that inkjet for sheet cut. The ImageStream opens up. It's a higher speed machine. It's a 30-inch wide printer, so it gives us the ability to do bigger volume, longer run jobs in 3-up formats, 4-up formats, depending on what we're doing. It also allows us to bring offset coated sheets into the mix, gloss sheets that we couldn't do prior, and we're no longer dependent strictly on things that are available with an inkjet treatment on it. So it opens the creative gamut quite a bit for our creative services team.
Right. Now, will the ImageStream allow you to do some new direct mail product configurations as well, in terms of the pieces themselves?
Not necessarily. It's more about the design and being able to use the different substrates than what we currently use. With a 20-inch press or a 30-inch press, the only real difference in the width there is the efficiencies of ganging multiples up. But in terms of piece design, we can do an awful lot with either one of them.
How about from a consumable standpoint, the paper? Will that allow you to run some grades that you weren't able to run previously?
Oh, absolutely. That's the non-treated sheets. It really opens up what's available in your conventional print world as possibilities. Now, every sheet that can run on an offset press won't necessarily perform on the IS3500, but we've tested a wide gamut of papers, and there's plenty to choose from, and obviously a much wider selection that you have if you're limited to treated sheets.
So really the paper equation's a really big deal then.
It is. The other thing that's really different is with the 1200 by 1200 DPI heads, You get better color space, which translates into a wider color gamut with the need to put down less ink to achieve it. So it does help a lot with color reproduction. It's moving us one step closer to being more comparable with the current offset world.
You know, we received an audience question that I wanted to ask you about, and it came from Christine Alexander from Dreamin' in CMYK, and she wanted to know, what are the breakpoints for when you choose between continuous feed over cut sheet?
You know, it really depends on the project and what you're trying to achieve. Just a rough rule of thumb is 25,000 sheets and under absolutely belong in the sheet cut world. And then really depending on what you're doing, you could run that number up quite a bit higher. But for sure, by the time you hit around 75,000, if you've got good continuous boxes, that's the way to go.
You know, I know you're just ramping up both presses, and I'm sure you're scrambling here before this open house, but any surprises? You know, maybe you had some preconceived notions when you acquired the presses, and now that you've got them and you're in the testing and running stage?
I would say no. It's obviously early, but so far everything we've seen in our testing and setup looks like what we expected. And again, one of the reasons we've got the partnership with Canon that we do is because we know that when we buy these things and we're the first one out there, they're going to be here supporting us. And if there is any, you know, hiccups, and anytime there's something new, there's potential hiccups, they're right there to take care of them, and we work through them. So not at all concerned about that.
You know, even though you're on the operational side of the business at IWCO Direct, how do you think your customers will respond to these new investments?
You know, I don't know that they necessarily respond directly to the fact that we're making the investments. They love when we bring new things to them to expand the creativity of what they can do with a direct mail piece. And I think that's what they get focused on. As long as we're purchasing good technology that expands their opportunities to drive response rates and be more creative in the mailbox, that's what they're looking at. And, you know, they've responded very well to everything we've invested in color digital so far.
And you've really kind of already sold them on the lower cost per piece that inkjet provides, you know, versus toner-based or offset shells.
Well, it's, you know, lower cost per piece is a little bit of a it's a little bit of a myth. I mean, it's not necessarily a lower cost per piece, but definitely what you get is a higher value per piece, because with the ability to do high level personalization in both content and images, it really makes a difference in the response rate. So people don't mind paying a little more if they get a lot more on the response end. And so it's not always cheaper, but it's definitely better in what you can do.
How are you going to be handling the finishing for the i300 and the ImageStream?
You know, because we're a direct mail shop and provide a lot of different types of creativity in our direct mail pieces, most of our finishing needs to happen off the press. So we take a nearline approach. We have high-speed bindery lines. We have a bunch of unique finishing lines that we've built that can do double plows and different types of card affixing all in line. So we're not finishing on the press. We run our presses roll to roll.
Okay. So you're really not slowing down the presses?
No, I need to run the presses as fast as I can because the bindery's slow enough.
Right.
On the more creative stuff.
Do you think that's something more prone to the direct mail world versus some of the other segments where inkjet is taken off?
Yeah, I think if I was running a big transactional shop for an in-house like at a bank or something, I'd do everything I could in line, because I wouldn't be doing all the make-readies and setups and changeovers that we see in the workspace that we're in. We run postcards one day, and the next time out we're running, you know, a three across plow into one 6-page letter when we're done. So it's just the finishing is so different project to project, it doesn't make sense to put in line for us.
Right. You talked about the i300 and how you're using it, you know, to support your continuous feed inkjet output, and you're trying to match the color consistency. Has that proven so far to be a good match? And that obviously was a big driver in your decision.
Yeah, when we did our testing in Europe, both in Poing and over in Venlo, we did a lot of cross equipment color matching just to see how much of a gap we were creating between the devices. And Canon's done a nice job of getting decent color consistency across all of their devices as they've built this platform out. On top of that, we employ a couple of color technical specialists. These guys are rocket sciences in color, if you will, and really can massage the files and have put in place processes, procedures, standards. We're G7. We use Grackle. We use all the different color management tools and systems, and we've built a process in-house that assures color consistency across the different devices.
Right. You know, obviously you're a lot further along the learning curve than a lot of direct mail shops in terms of moving to a white paper in business workflow. You know, why do you think that really presents a game changer for our industry?
Well, I think the biggest thing about it is going white paper in means you are being using a digital device to output the content and the images, and that means you're really driving your mail piece with data, not just with here's a version. You know, you're really using the data to create that one-to-one marketing approach that everybody likes to talk about. It's becoming more real every day as we move down this path.
You know, that kind of leads into another question that we received from Deborah Korn, our friend at Print Media Center, and she wanted to know, as Senior VP of Operations, how do you assess your production processes and implement changes? Do the concepts of lean manufacturing play a part, and if so, how?
IWCO has been heavily involved in both CI and lean for the last 10 years. We use those principles in how we set up our workflow on the production floor. We get employee involvement in fine-tuning the processes, and that's all been a big part of this. However, what digital has really done is it's driven it from the production floor into our content development area, for example, which I'm responsible for, and we're really changing the way we use our tools and our workflow in that department to align in QA and make sure we've got color consistency in all of the print file creation that feeds these devices, because most of that QA and quality stuff has to be done in the creation of the files, because once you get to the output device, your ability to change it a lot is limited.
You know, you mentioned the whole issue of data, and that's such a big deal, obviously, as you're doing so much personalization. How is IWCO kind of managing and protecting that data?
So we have obviously a security manager here that's responsible for our network security. We have security training up and down the line in all areas of manufacturing in the plant. We have the latest tools in place to manage our firewalls and protect the data on the servers, and we have very secure movement of data through the facility. So there's a lot of work that goes into that. Plus, our customers consistently put us, as they do most people that handle the type of data we do, through security audits, which we pass every time.
Right. So I wanted to fit in one more question from our audience, and this came from Slava Appel at amazingprint.com. And he asked, do you leverage web to print in selling VDP, or does it still require a human touch?
We do not do any web to print. Everything does require a human touch. Our projects tend to be too complicated to just be, over the web orders. So we have, full client services and planning resources that work with customers to make sure we get those projects appropriately planned and set up.
I wanted to just ask you a closing question. I know you personally have been very involved in education and information sharing, both to your customers as well as, frankly, to your competitors. For example, I know you were very involved in helping the Designer's Guide to Inkjet, which Canon Solutions America produced, but it's really an agnostic book about how to design for inkjet.
Yep.
And I know you were involved in that. You've been a very active participant in the Inkjet Summit. And you're also a board member, and you're in the planning stages for what's going to be Canon Solutions America first Think Annual Users Conference in New York. You know, just on a personal level, why do you think that's important for a printer, you know, to really be involved and share information?
I think education in the industry is important because selfishly it helps make the industry stronger. The media had begun to say that direct mail was dead, and we don't really believe it's dead. In fact, we've got a lot of data that proves that direct mail combined with other medias, such as email and other web services, you can really make the performance of a direct mail piece even stronger. And without a direct mail piece, the email and some others don't do as well. So we want direct mail to take off again with digital print. And to make that work, we've got to have a strong industry and people understanding what's going on. We've spent a lot of money, obviously, on this equipment. And for this equipment to get better, we got to have more people investing in it and buying the equipment so that the people that manufacture it can continue to invest in R&D and improve the quality of the inks and the papers. And so education so that people want to play in this space is really important.
And that's well said, Dave, and thanks so much for joining us today. And thanks for watching PI XChange. And be sure to visit piworld.com to stay up to date on the latest industry news and commentary. And follow us on Twitter and on Printing Impressions LinkedIn group to submit your questions for future PI XChange interviews. And the next one will be July 16th, and we hope to see you all there. Thanks for watching.